The battlefield of betrayal. The sky was dark, filled with smoke and fire. The sound of explosions shook the ground again and again. Dead bodies of soldiers from both sides lay everywhere. In the middle of this broken land, an alien warrior lay. Bleeding, her name was Shira, a proud and strong fighter of the Varnak species. She was tall, with purple skin and sharp eyes that once showed no fear. But now her eyes were full of pain. Her legs were gone. Blown apart by a hidden mine, she tried to move, but her body did not answer. Her armor was broken, her weapons lost. She looked around, hoping to see her own army, her people, but she saw nothing. Hours ago, when she was injured, her commander gave the order to retreat. Her fellow warriors looked back at her, saw her bleeding, helpless, but they left her behind in her world. Weakness was shame. A warrior who could not walk was useless. To them, Shira was already dead. She had never felt anger like this before. Not at the enemy, but at her own people. She had given her life to fight for them, but they abandoned her. Now she was alone, waiting for death. Then she heard footsteps, not heavy like Varnak soldiers, but light and careful. She turned her head and saw a figure walking through the smoke. It was a human. He wore the green armor of the human marines, his face covered with dirt and blood. He held a rifle, but it was lowered. When he saw Shira, he paused. They looked at each other in silence. Shira tried to grab a broken piece of metal, ready to fight, but she was too weak. The human looked around, then walked closer. Shira hissed at him. "Kill me then, human." But the human shook his head. "No," he said. "I'm not here to kill." His voice was calm but firm. "You'll die if you stay here." Shira stared at him, confused. Why would an enemy care? She asked him, "Why save me?" "I am your enemy." The human marine looked at her. "I don't leave anyone behind," he said. "Enemy or not, no one deserves to die like this." She laughed bitterly. "Then you are a fool," she said. "No, just human," he replied. Then he knelt down and carefully picked her up. She was heavy, but he carried her on his back. Shira was shocked. No one, not even her own kind, had done this for her. They moved slowly, the human breathing hard, all around them. Fires burned, the ground shaking with distant bombs. Shira wanted to ask his name, but pride kept her silent. Suddenly, they heard voices nearby, enemy soldiers, not human, but mercenaries who hunted the wounded for money. The human cursed under his breath. He carried Shira into a ruined building, hiding behind broken walls, through the cracks. They saw 3 mercenaries searching the area. If they found them, both Shira and the human would be dead. The human put Shira down gently. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Then he pulled a small knife and waited, watching the shadows move. Shira felt useless for the first time in her life. She was a warrior, yet she could not fight, could not even stand. The human was risking his life for her. Why? She still didn't understand. One of the mercenaries came too close. The human lunged from the shadow, silent and fast. He grabbed the man and slit his throat before he could scream. But the sound of the body falling alerted the others. Gunfire erupted, bullets tearing through the walls. The human returned fire with his rifle, protecting both of them, but there were too many enemies. Shira looked around and saw a pistol on the dead mercenary's belt. With her last strength, she dragged herself forward. She grabbed the pistol, her hands shaking. When one mercenary appeared in the doorway, Shira fired. The shot was weak, but it hit the enemy in the neck. Dropping him, the human looked back and smiled. "Not bad for someone with no legs," he said. She grinned weakly, feeling a small spark of pride. But more enemies were coming. "We can't stay here," the human said, lifting her again. "We have to move now." As they escaped through the back of the building, Shira felt something she never thought she would feel for a human. Trust, but deep inside. She also felt fear, not of death, but of what would come next. She knew more enemies were out there. And she was still weak, still broken. Yet, for the first time since the war began, she was not alone. Shira had never been carried before. She was a warrior, a killer, a leader. But now, she was weight on someone's back, and that someone was a human, her enemy. His breathing was heavy, each step slow and careful, yet he did not stop. Even though gunfire echoed behind them, even though danger was all around, still, he carried her. She hated feeling weak. She hated needing help, but most of all, she hated that it was a human helping her. Why? She asked finally, her voice low. Why are you doing this? The human glanced back, sweat on his face. Because I can, he said simply. I don't leave people behind. I am not your people, she growled. I would have killed you, he chuckled. I know, but you didn't. That silence between them grew heavy. Shira didn't understand this man. In her world, mercy was weakness. Helping an enemy was madness. But this human, he was different. Still, she did not trust him. Not yet. They reached an old building half buried under rubble. The human kicked open the broken door and stepped inside. Dust filled the air, but it was safer here for now, he laid her down gently against a cracked wall. Then he sat beside her, checking his rifle and bullets. Shira looked at him, studying his face, beneath the dirt and blood. He was young, younger than she expected, yet his eyes looked older, full of pain and fire. What is your name, human? She asked. Dax, he said. Private Dax Nolan, Terran Marines. Why risk your life for me, Dax Nolan? She asked again. You don't even know me. I don't need to know you, he said. I just know you're alive. That's enough. She shook her head. Foolish, she muttered. Maybe, Dax smiled. But it's my choice. Then, without warning, there was a noise outside. Footsteps, but not many. 3 or 4 men. Moving slowly, searching. Dax raised his rifle, signaling Shira to stay quiet. But Shira already knew who they were. She recognized the way they moved. Bounty hunters. Mercenaries paid to kill or capture important targets. And Shira was a very important target. Her own people must have put a price on her head. Dead or alive, they wanted her gone. A shadow appeared. In the doorway, a tall man with a scarred face and a heavy blaster. He smiled when he saw them. Well, he said. What do we have here? A crippled alien and her pet human. Dax stood, rifle aimed. Leave. Dax warned. The bounty hunter laughed. Easy, Marine. I'm here for her. Not you. Give her to me and you can walk away. Shira watched Dax carefully. She expected him to agree, to save himself. It would be logical. Why die for her? But Dax shook his head. Not happening, he said. She's under my protection. The bounty hunter's smile faded. Wrong choice, he said, raising his blaster. The fight was quick but brutal. Dax fired first, hitting one of the hunters. Behind the leader, the others fired back, bullets smashing walls and stone. Dax ducked, returning fire, moving fast despite the weight of exhaustion. Shira wanted to help, but she was useless without her legs. Then she saw a small pistol near a dead mercenary. She grabbed it, her hands trembling. The bounty hunter aimed at Dax, ready to shoot. Shira didn't think. She fired. The bullet hit the hunter's arm, making him drop his blaster. Dax took the chance and finished him with 2 shots. The last hunter ran away into the dark. Silence fell again, broken only by Dax's heavy breathing. He looked at Shira, surprised. Nice shot, he said. She nodded. Could have been better. She replied. They both laughed, tired and hurting, but alive. Then Dax sat down, pulling out a small device from his pocket. It was a radio, cracked but still working. Static filled the air, but then a voice came through. All units, prepare for orbital strike in this sector, 2 hours. Dax's face turned pale. They're going to wipe this area clean, he whispered. Anything alive will burn. Shira looked at him. So we must leave, she said. Dax nodded. Yes, but you can't walk. And I can't carry you forever. Shira stared into the darkness. If you want to live, human, leave me, she said coldly. You've done enough. But Dax shook his head, his eyes fierce. Not a chance, he said. We're both getting out. Or neither of us. Shira felt a strange feeling inside. She didn't know what it was. Maybe respect, maybe something more. But she knew one thing. This human was different, and because of that, she might just survive outside. The sky rumbled with the sound of distant ships. Time was running out. They had to move, and together they would. Night had fallen, but there was no peace. The sky above was burning red with distant fires. Ships moved like shadows in the clouds. Some hunting, some escaping. Inside the ruined building, Dax and Shira listened to the world dying outside. They knew they didn't have much time, but danger had already found them. A deep voice echoed from the shadows. "Thought you could kill me that easy?" Dax spun around, rifle ready. Shira tried to lift her pistol, her hands weak. Out of the darkness stepped the bounty hunter, alive, bleeding, but smiling. His scarred face was twisted with anger. He wasn't alone. 2 more bounty hunters flanked him, weapons raised. They blocked the exits. There was no way out. Stupid human. The bounty hunter said, "You could have walked away. Now you'll die with her." Dax didn't lower his rifle. "Maybe, but you'll bleed first." He snapped. The bounty hunter laughed. "You're brave, I'll give you that," he said, "but bravery doesn't stop bullets." Then the bounty hunter turned his cold eyes to Shira. "You're worth a fortune, alien," he said. "Dead or alive, your people don't care. But me? I prefer dead, less trouble." Shira stared back with hate. "You are a coward," she spat. "You hunt the weak. I hunt the profitable," he replied. "And right now, you're both worth the bullet." He raised his gun, pointing straight at Shira. Dax acted without thinking. He stepped between Shira and the gun. "Over my dead body," he said. "That's the plan," the hunter sneered. But then, he paused. "What if we make a deal?" he said with a grin. Dax kept his rifle aimed. "What deal?" "You give me the alien," the hunter said. "You can walk away free. No one will chase you. I promise." Shira's eyes locked on Dax. She expected him to accept. It was the smart choice, the easy way out. She was dead weight, after all, but Dax didn't move. He didn't even blink. Instead, he said, "You're talking to the wrong Marine." The bounty hunter's smile faded. "So be it," he said. "Kill them both." Gunfire exploded in the small room. Dax rolled to the side, shooting back. Bullets smashed into the walls, sparks flying. Shira dragged herself to cover, grabbing the pistol. She felt weak, but her mind was sharp. She waited. Watching the shadows move, she counted the shots, listening for the click of an empty gun. Dax took down one of the bounty hunters, but a second shot hit his shoulder. He cried out but stayed standing. Blood ran down his arm, but he kept firing. Shira saw the main hunter move closer. His gun aimed at Dax's back. She didn't hesitate. She fired her pistol, the shot hitting the hunter's leg. He roared in pain, turning to her. "You little cripple," he shouted. He charged at her, gun raised. Dax saw it, with a burst of strength. He threw his last grenade. The explosion rocked the room, smoke and dust filling the air. When it cleared, the bounty hunter was on the ground, groaning. His leg was gone, blown off by the blast. Dax limped over, rifle aimed at the hunter's head. "You should have walked away," Dax said. Then he pulled the trigger, ending it. Silence returned, heavy and cold. Dax fell to his knees, breathing hard. Shira dragged herself closer. She looked at his wound, the blood. "You're hurt," she said. "Yeah," he said with a weak laugh. "But I'm alive thanks to you." She nodded. "We are even now human." But Dax shook his head. "We're not done yet," he said. "An orbital strike is still coming." Shira looked at the dead bounty hunters. She spotted a small device on the leader's belt. A beacon, blinking softly. She frowned. "That's a tracker," she said. He called more. Dax grabbed the beacon and crushed it under his boot. But it was too late. In the distance, engines roared, ships approaching. "We have to go," Dax said. "But how?" Shira asked. "I cannot walk." Dax looked around. He saw a broken hover sled in the corner. used by the bounty hunters to carry gear. He pulled it free, dust flying off the metal. "It'll do," he said. "We ride out of here." He helped Shira onto the sled, tying her in place. Then he grabbed a rope, ready to pull. "I hope you're light," Dax joked. Shira smirked. "Compared to your pride, human?" "I am." Outside, the sound of engines grew louder. Enemies were coming, but together. They would not wait to die. They moved into the night, the human pulling, the alien watching his back. Their alliance was reluctant, but now it was their only chance. And in the sky above, the bombs began to fall. The ground was shaking. The sky flashed with fire as the orbital strike began. Buildings crumbled like sand. The world was ending, and they were still running. Dax pulled the hover sled with all his strength. His body screamed with pain. His wounded shoulder burned. But he didn't stop on the sled. Shira held her pistol tightly. Her sharp eyes watched every shadow, every sound. She knew death could come from anywhere. They crossed a narrow alley when the sky behind them lit up. A wave of fire roared, turning the battlefield into hell. Dax fell to his knees, coughing. But the sled kept moving. Shira shouted, "Move, human, or we both die." Somehow Dax stood again. He pulled with everything he had, step by step. He dragged her through the ruins. His legs felt like stone, his lungs burning. Then in the distance, they saw it, an old transport ship, half buried under debris. It was broken, but maybe, just maybe, the med bay still worked. "We go there," Dax said, pointing. Shira nodded. "Yes, or I bleed out here." When they reached the ship, Dax broke the door open. Inside, it was dark, filled with dust and silence. But he kept moving, searching for the med bay. Finally he found it, still powered, just barely. He lifted Shira off the sled. His muscles screamed, but he carried her to the table. She was fading fast, her skin pale. Her blood was everywhere. Dax worked quickly, using old med packs. He patched her wounds, stopped the bleeding, but her body was still weak, too weak. Without advanced care, she would die before the next sunrise. Dax looked around, desperate. Then he found it an autosurgeon unit. Old but functional, it needed bioenergy cells. He searched the ship, breaking open lockers, containers, anything. Until finally, he found the cells. He slammed them into the machine. It powered up with a soft hum. He connected Shira to the machine, watching as it scanned her. Her eyes flickered open. "What are you doing?" She whispered. "Saving you," Dax said. "Don't die yet, alien." She wanted to protest, but her voice failed. Her vision went dark as the machine began its work. Hours passed. Dax sat by her side, watching, waiting. His body was exhausted, his mind foggy, but he stayed awake, guarding her. Outside, the bombs still fell. The sky still burned. But inside that broken ship, there was silence. Then finally the machine stopped. Shira opened her eyes. She was alive. Her pain was less. Her body stronger, but her legs, they were still gone. She looked at Dax. His eyes were heavy, barely open. But when he saw her awake, he smiled. "Told you I'd save you," he said weakly. Then he collapsed, unconscious. Shira stared at him. This human had done more for her than her own people ever would. Why? She didn't understand, but she felt something deep inside. A debt. A warrior's debt. In her culture, debts of survival were sacred. She had to repay it. Even to a human. Shira pulled herself off the table. Crawling to Dax, she checked his wounds. He was burning with fever, the infection spreading. She found more med supplies. Her hands shook. But she worked carefully. She cleaned his wound, gave him the medicine. Hours passed, but she stayed awake, watching over him. She was the protector. Now finally, Dax stirred, his eyes fluttering open. "You stayed," he whispered. Shira nodded. "Yes, human, I owe you." Dax smiled. "Weak but happy. Good," he said. "Because we're not out of this yet." Then the radio on his belt crackled. An enemy patrol was nearby, searching the wrecks. Shira looked at him. "We can't fight," she said. You are weak, and I cannot walk. Dax nodded. Then we hide, and when you're strong enough, we escape. Shira stared at him. For the first time, she didn't see him as human. She saw him as a comrade, a fighter who refused to quit. I will get stronger, she promised. And when I do, I will repay my debt. Dax chuckled. Good. Because I'm tired of doing all the work. Outside, the enemy was closing in. But inside, a bond was forming. A debt that would change both their lives and maybe, just maybe, change the war. The cold air inside the wrecked ship was heavy with dust and old blood. Yet something new was growing in that dead place. A fragile alliance, built on survival, built on trust neither of them wanted to admit. Dax sat against the wall, his shoulder bandaged, his body weak, but his mind was still sharp, still restless. Shira, still without legs, sat nearby, her sharp eyes scanning the shadows. Her skin was less pale now, her strength slowly returning. Neither spoke for a while. Words were not needed. They both knew time was running out. Then Dax broke the silence. We can't stay here, he said. They'll find us sooner or later. Shira nodded. I agree, human, but I still cannot walk. Dax smiled weakly. Yeah, I noticed, he joked. She almost smiled, but I have a plan, Dax continued. We can't fight our way out, not like this. But I've been scanning radio chatter. They're planning a full sweep of this sector, but they'll avoid the lower tunnels. Tunnels? Shira asked. Dax pointed to a cracked map on the wall. Old service tunnels under the city, he explained. Collapsed in some places, but some routes are still open. If we reach them, we can sneak past their patrols. Shira studied the map. She didn't like the odds, but they were better than waiting to die. Fine, she said. Then let us move, Marine. Dax stood with effort, his body aching. He looked at her. Can you handle the sled again? Shira shook her head. The hover sled is damaged. It won't last. Then what do you suggest? Dax asked. She thought for a moment. Build a carrier, she said. You have tools. Materials in this wreck. Make something I can sit in. You pull, I shoot. Dax chuckled. Of course, I'm the mule. He muttered, but he started gathering parts anyway. Hours passed. Dax built a rough carrier from metal scraps and wheels. It wasn't pretty, but it would work. Shira climbed into it with some effort. She grabbed a rifle, her hands steady now. She was ready to fight, even without legs. As they prepared to leave, the radio crackled again. A voice, cold and sharp. All units, priority target confirmed, alien fugitive spotted, Sector 9. Shira's eyes narrowed. They know we're here, Dax sighed. Then we move now. Pulled the carrier with all his strength. They left the ship, moving into the night. The city was dead, ruins everywhere. But the sky was alive with searchlights and distant engines. Every shadow could be an enemy, every noise could be death. They moved carefully, Dax pulling, Shira watching the rear. At one point, they heard voices. Soldiers nearby, searching. Dax ducked behind a broken wall. He whispered, "Stay quiet." The soldiers passed close. Shira aimed her rifle, her finger ready to shoot. But Dax touched her arm. "Don't, we'll stay hidden," he whispered. She hesitated, but lowered her weapon. They waited until the footsteps faded. Then they moved again. Finally, they found an old tunnel entrance, half buried under rubble. Dax cleared the debris with his bare hands, his fingers bleeding. But he didn't stop. He pulled the carrier inside. The tunnel was dark, cold, but it was safety. They lit a small light, the walls wet and cracked. Rats scattered in the dark, but no soldiers, no bounty hunters. They kept moving. Every step was pain for Dax. Every bump was discomfort for Shira, but together they pushed forward. Then suddenly, a sound, a deep, metallic hum from above. Shira listened carefully. "Dropships," she said. "They're landing above us." Dax cursed. "We need to move faster." Then Shira froze. She felt vibrations in the ground. Not dropships, something else, something heavy, marching. She looked at Dax. "They've sent exosuits," she whispered. "Mechs, designed to crush tunnels." Dax's face hardened. If they blocked this path, we're dead. Shira grabbed his arm. There's a fork ahead, she said. Take the left path. It leads deeper underground, safer but longer. Dax didn't argue. He changed direction, pulling her toward the left. Behind them, the sound of machines grew louder, walls shook, dust falling from the ceiling. But they kept moving, faster, deeper, in that dark tunnel. With death behind them and uncertainty ahead, two enemies had become partners. Bound not by trust, but by the will to survive, and far above, their hunters prepared. The hunt was not over. The ground shook with every step of the machines above. Like giants stomping on the bones of the dead, dust fell from the tunnel ceiling. At any moment, the earth itself could collapse on them. But Dax kept pulling. Shira kept watching. Together, they refused to stop. Then a voice echoed from a small speaker in Shira's armor. Cold, sharp, familiar. Shira of the Varnak, I know you. Can hear me? Shira froze. That voice, it was her former commander, the one who left her to die. Dax glanced back. Who is it? My commander, she whispered. He's here, the voice continued. You disappoint me, Shira, it said. Running with a human? Pathetic. Shira clenched her fists. She wanted to scream, but the voice kept talking. I'll give you one chance, he said. Kill the human, surrender, and I will end your suffering quickly. Dax looked at her. He didn't say a word. He just waited, watching her face. Do it, Shira, the voice demanded. You know you'll never survive. With him, Shira stared into the dark tunnel. She thought of her people, her pride, her lost legs, her betrayal. Then she looked at Dax, the human who carried her, fed her, saved her, the human who never gave up on her. She touched the speaker and spoke. Commander, she said coldly. Go rot in the dirt, she crushed the speaker with her hand. The sound cut off. Dax raised an eyebrow. Nice answer, he said. Shira smiled slightly. Let's move, human. But the enemy was not done. Minutes later, the tunnel shook again. Footsteps, not machines this time. Soldiers, many soldiers. They had found another entrance. They were closing in fast. Dax and Shira reached an open chamber underground. Old, wide, with broken pillars and metal scraps. It was the perfect place for a last stand. We can't outrun them, Dax said. I know, Shira replied. Then we fight. She loaded her rifle, her hand steady. Dax checked his last magazine. Not many bullets left, he said. Then, don't miss, Shira replied. Moments later, the enemy poured in. Dozens of them, weapons ready. Leading them was the commander himself, tall, armored, cold eyes glowing in the dark. You made your choice, Shira, he said. Now you'll die with this human fool. Better than dying a coward like you. She spat back. The fight exploded. Bullets, lasers, smoke. Dax fired from cover, sharp and fast. Shira picked off targets with deadly aim. Even without legs, she was still a warrior. The commander charged forward. A massive blade in hand, Dax tried to shoot him. But the commander's armor deflected the shots. He was too fast, too strong. Then the commander reached Dax. He swung his blade. Dax blocked with his rifle, but it snapped in half. The blade sliced Dax's side, blood spraying. He fell. Gasping in pain, Shira screamed. Grabbing a heavy blaster, she fired at the commander. But he kept coming, unstoppable. You should have joined me, Shira, he sneered. You could have lived. But Shira was not done. She grabbed a grenade from the floor, pulled the pin with her teeth, and waited until the commander was close. Come then, she growled. For Varnak honor. She threw the grenade at his feet. The blast was deafening. Smoke and fire swallowed the commander. When it cleared, he was on the ground, his armor shattered. Breathing, but broken. Shira dragged herself to Dax. He was bleeding badly. But alive, she pressed on his wound. You are not dying. Human, she said fiercely. I forbid it. Dax chuckled weakly. Yes. Ma'am, he whispered. Then Shira heard more soldiers coming. Too many, but then something new, a loud rumble above. The ceiling cracked. Light poured in. A human rescue ship hovered above the chamber. Ropes dropped. Soldiers shouted, "Marines, we're here!" "Hold on." Dax smiled faintly. "They found us." Shira looked up. For the first time in days, she felt hope. She grabbed Dax's hand. "We go together," she said. "Together," he agreed. The Marines pulled them up, leaving the dead and the past behind, and as they rose, Shira looked down at her fallen commander. She felt no pity, no regret, only strength. Her debt to the human was not just survival, it was her new beginning. The sky was no longer burning. The war was still raging. But far away now, above the clouds, the human rescue ship carried them higher. For the first time in days, Shira felt the cold wind of freedom on her face. She looked at Dax. He was lying on a stretcher. Pale and weak, but he was alive, his chest slowly rising, breath by breath. Shira's own body still felt broken. Her legs were gone forever, but inside, she was stronger than she had ever been. A human had saved her life, and she had saved his. Yet something deeper tied them now, honor. The ship landed at a human base. Medics rushed in, taking Dax to surgery. Shira watched them go, feeling something strange. She had no reason to care for a human. But she did. She cared. Human soldiers approached her, guns ready, eyes cold. She was still an alien, still a former enemy. A human officer stepped forward. "You fought beside one of ours," he said. "Why?" Shira stared at him. "Because he didn't leave me to die," she answered. "And I don't abandon my allies." The officer studied her face, then nodded slowly. "We'll give you shelter. For now," he said. "But if you fight us, you'll die." "I have no fight left with humans," Shira said. "Not anymore." Days passed. Dax survived the surgery. He woke up weak but smiling when he saw her. "Still here?" He joked. "Still here," she replied with a faint grin. The human Marines treated her with caution, but some began to respect her. They saw her not as an alien, but as a warrior. Shira trained daily, strengthening her upper body. She learned about human tech, human customs, but in her heart, she carried one mission: to repay her debt to Dax fully. One day, Dax was well enough to sit with her under the open sky. They looked at the stars, silent for a while. Then Shira spoke. "I owe you my life, human," she said. "My people have a law when saved by another. We swear a life debt." Dax looked at her. "You don't have to," he said softly. "You're free now." "No," Shira said firmly. "I choose this. My honor demands it." She looked at him, eyes serious. "One day, I will save you again. No matter where, no matter when." Dax chuckled. "Then I'll try not to die before then." She smiled. "See that you don't." As the wind blew softly, they sat together. Human and alien, once enemies, now bound by something greater. Far away, the war still burned. New battles would come. But Shira knew her place now, not with her old people, but with the one who taught her that mercy was not weakness, that honor was not in blood, but in choices, and her choice was made. She was not just Shira, the Varnak warrior anymore. She was Shira, the protector of one stubborn human marine, the stars. Watch them, two lives forever changed, two warriors bound by survival. And by honor, their story was not over, it was just beginning.